with that, let's bring in our guests because um,
Yay.
they are, we're just starting our day over here on the West Coast. But Peter and Deb, let's have you guys go ahead and introduce yourself and
Yes.
tell folks where you are and what is going on in your world.
Yeah, hi everybody, great to be here. My name is Peter Berry, and I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's at the age of 50. And let's think, that was probably about 7 years ago now. We tried to, me and my wife and my friend Deb's here, we tried to go around the country and raise awareness about dementia and I suppose basically how to live well with dementia, which seems to be something that seems to be very easy to do, but many people like myself found it difficult. So we try to help others to understand and others to cope with their diagnosis.
And I'm Deb, and I suppose I'm one of Peter's closest friends. I used to live in London, and my husband and I moved from London about 100 miles onto the east coast to retire. And then I met Peter, and I have spent the last 3.5 years cycling with Peter, writing 2 books about Peter with Peter's help, and just learning how to live well without dementia, but learning how to live in the moment.
I will say 3.5 years, that wasn't one cycle ride. We broke it up into various different cycle rides.
Good point.
Otherwise that'd be a very long ride.
I would assume that Deb was already an accomplished author and writer, and she thought, I love my new friends and my new life 100 miles from where I used to be, but that may not be the true story.
It's not the true story. I always wanted to be a writer. I wasn't a writer in London. I worked with families who were going through some sort of crisis with their young people. Always wanted to write, but never had any success until I met Peter. And it's through Peter's dementia, but mainly through my friendship with Peter, that we've now had 2 books published. So Peter has helped me fulfill my lifelong ambition.
That's wonderful. And now the first book was Slow Puncture. That's correct? Yeah. So tell us about the journey of writing that book.
It wasn't much of a journey, because when Peter and I would go out on our bike rides, he would talk about things, not just dementia, but about his memories. And I would be making notes about it when I got home. And Peter did so many incredible things in one particular year, so many events and charity events and bike rides. I thought I would just write a chronological account of that year, using his words where possible, and then using how I saw dementia and how my understanding of dementia grew through meeting with Peter. So it's a book written by me, but with Peter's voice in it, and it has both of our perceptions about the same events. And it is a book that Peter has never and will never read, not because you can't read, but because...
No, basically my dementia has affected me in different ways, and I can read the words, but I can't remember what I have read. So if I start to read something, by the time I get down a few lines, I've forgotten what it is relevant to. So it's quite bizarre having 2 books out that I have an idea of what's in them, because it's part of my life, but I don't actually physically know what's really in it. And it's quite a thing, really. It started off, I think, really with just us recording my memories for my family and for the future, really. And it just evolved into a book, helping people to understand dementia from the inside out a little bit.
But I think one of the key things is it sort of shows the trust that Peter has in me to write about him. He doesn't necessarily know everything I've written about, which is good, particularly page 28. But it shows that sort of what a friendship can achieve, regardless of dementia. It shows the enduring quality of a friendship, and I think that's quite a nice thing to have.
Yeah, we also try to portray in the book that I suppose really life with dementia is not over, it's just quite a bit different.
It's like you've combined two cultures, and you know that you'll never fully be part of Peter's culture, or you won't be fully part of Deb's culture, but together there's an incredible richness coming together. I think that's, I mean, how much better is that than to say, this is my path, I walk it alone? And that might actually be a segue to talking about the next. Has this book come out yet? Can people actually get your new book?
Yes, I can. It's only available on Amazon. It's called Walk With Me, Musings Through the Dementia Fog. And it evolved because in the evenings, when Peter's tired, he has thoughts that come into his head, and he's been texting them to me for the last couple of years. And they're quite poetical and quite deep. And once he has sent them over to me, they've gone from him completely. So I've been compiling them, and we published it as sort of a poetry book with some photographs of our local area, and also with a sort of retrospective look back at the last year since the first book was published. And it is available on Amazon. If you type Walk With Me Bunt or Walk With Me Berry, the book will come up.
And I do have that highlighted in the carousel, so people
Lovely,
can
thank you.
go ahead and click and add these books. And so I just want to remind everybody, we are talking with Peter Berry and Deb Bunt, and they've written 2 books we have highlighted here right now. Walk With Me, and it's Musings Through the Dementia Fog. And then they also wrote together The Slow Puncture. And I was just thinking back, you were talking about bike riding, and of course, slow puncture. That's something that we don't want is we're riding. But tell us a little bit about the imagery that you have there.
Do you want to talk about?
Yes, I suppose the title is very. I suppose it's very here and now, where I am living in my own mind. I suppose really dementia is like a slow puncher. We gradually lose our memories and our abilities, just like a tyre would lose air. I think it's important to say that people like myself with dementia, we're all showmen. We try to, I suppose, show people, or I personally do, to show people that, you know, we haven't got dementia. Dementia comes along quite slowly, and we have coping strategies. What the book does really is it takes people behind the stage, behind the scenes. So we're on stage presenting ourselves, and the book allows people to come behind and see what the grittiness is about dementia. So Slow Puncher is really relevant to that. It's a great title that we found, and it just seems such a perfect title really for the book.
And I suppose the other side of that is when I get a physical puncture on my bike, I cannot change it. I cannot repair my bike. So the fact that Peter can do all that shows that I'm not caring for Peter. He's actually caring for me quite significantly when we go out. And I think that's really important. It turns the stereotype upside down.
It's a great partnership, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I can't read a map. I can't repair a bike. So I'm dependent on Peter to look after me. Peter might forget to eat. I will remind you to eat. So it's really equal. It's not a one-sided relationship at all.
Well, I'll just say it's just the title of that book puts so much hope out there, because I think when people think of any kind of a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis like this, that we know is going to be a long-term dementia, Alzheimer's, that it's easy to be depressed maybe. But you put right in the title some great hope that's living well with dementia.
That is Peter's big thing, living well. And it took you a while to get there.
It did, yes. And I think most people after a diagnosis tend to go through a stage of, I suppose, really loss and depression, because we're losing so many of our abilities over a period of time. And I think we all dwell on the dark side of it. I wanted to show that in the book that you can still live with the condition and life isn't over. And I think that instead of people being depressed like I was for about 12 months plus, maybe somebody might read the book and they might come to the idea that, yes, if somebody like me, who's a normal guy, I'm nobody special, can live well with this condition, so can they. And to save, I suppose, to save maybe just one person from going to the places where I went personally, where I don't think anybody should have to go. And I think that that's sort of something that that I hope and really do feel that that the book is really what it's about for me, just to save others from their dementia monsters, I suppose, really.
And I think when you refer to dementia monster, that's quite an important part of the book too, because Peter made to kind of cope with the dementia, you've externalised your dementia,
Yeah.
and he created a monster. And do you want to? You talk about it so much better than I do.
Yeah, yes. The dementia was in my head, and I couldn't really physically do anything with it. But I made it into a little grumpy man that sits on the settee twiddling his thumbs, and he was in control when he was near me. When I was out on my bike, I was in control. I wasn't Peter with dementia, I was Peter riding the bike. So my dementia monster was then quite grumpy and upset because I wasn't there with him and he wasn't controlling my life. And living well with dementia doesn't have to be riding a bike hundreds of miles a month. It can be gardening, running, feeding the ducks in the park, having a cup of tea with a friend and a piece of cake. And that's so simple, but yet for some reason, we seem to go along this complicated journey to find that simplicity. And sometimes, like me personally, it took me actually 12 months and nearly ended my life to actually realise that, wow, this is actually simple. What am I doing, you know?
I think that's something
Apparently,
Peter's taught me as well. Don't go for the complex bit. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward, and it's a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
apparently part of the dementia journey is being on Amazon Live. And this is not the only interview you have done. I've actually listened to you, Peter, talking and watched you talking in other venues. And Deb, you just posted in the last 24 hours. You said, well, we're back safe from Mumbai. And I jumped.
We didn't obviously physically
what?
go to Mumbai.
Yes, I had to read on.
I was contacted by an organisation called Amicus Brain, and they do a lot of technology to assist with people with cognitive impairment. But this particular lady, Geeta, had been following Peter on his Facebook page, which we can talk about later if you wish, and really wanted to interview him because she wanted to spread the word about living well with dementia to India, which is where she was living at the time. So it was a sort of metaphorical journey to India, and now we're travelling to America, and then next week we're travelling up the road to a library. So that's what we do.
Wow, you're having a life experience, and you two are coming together. You express it differently, but you express it as a duo, as co-authors. So is this a co-authored autobiography? Do you have a genre that each of these books fit into, or is this a whole new thing that's being created?
I think the genre for the first one is memoir. That's what Outs authors have categorised it as. No, there's not really a genre for the second one. Poetry, I suppose.
There seems to be, from what I can understand, a lot of books about people's personal dementia and caregivers from that side. So it seems to be, the journeys seem to be either about a person who has dementia or somebody who is caring for somebody with dementia. I feel as though this is a little different because it's viewing dementia from the outside in. It's somebody who had no knowledge of the condition, became great friends with somebody who had the condition, and it started a whole new journey. And there's people out there who, like myself before I was diagnosed, who had no knowledge of dementia. Their perception, as mine was people in care homes who are later on in life and not capable of doing things. So to see somebody who is physically active and wanting to still do things, from Deb's point of view, this was quite a shocker. It was, wow, what's going on here? And I think she's learnt so much that has been detailed in the book that that others can learn from. And it doesn't wrap dementia up. It doesn't say, it's pretty. It does say it's ugly at times, but it also says that there are some fun bits in it. You can actually laugh at your dementia a little bit. You can actually have fun with it. And I mean, me and my wife, for instance, I get no end of things wrong, and I forget things, and we actually laugh. We actually poke fun at dementia. Now, we can do that because we have it as a family. So it's our diagnosis, so we're allowed to do that. But somehow poking fun at it and just lightening it a little bit just somehow makes it a less darker place. It makes it a little bit lighter. They always say the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, I find if I laugh at my dementia, A, the tunnel is shorter, and B, the light is a lot brighter.
Deb, no wonder you wanted to write this. I love listening to what he's saying right now. And you're probably like, that's a good one too.
He's a great person to write about. He just gives me the ammunition and I just fire it off. It works really well. I think the other thing I did want to say about having met Peter and how my perception on life has changed. I was a bit cynical when I left London and a bit sort of battle weary from my job. And now I think I've refocused a little bit, almost Zen-like. I kind of live in the moment when I can with Peter. I can't worry about everything, although I quite often do, but I try not to. I've rejiggled in my head what's important in life and what I need to focus on, because we only get one shot at life. And I think that's kind of a Peter teaching, that just enjoy what you're doing, and then the next day will take care of itself, won't it?
Absolutely.
Just enjoy the moment. Yeah. And I think that was a really valuable lesson for me, because I was a bit wrapped up with kind of doom and despair.
Yeah, that's really
it can take our yesterdays and it can take our tomorrows, but it can't always take our nows, and our here and nows and what we feel are still very important to people with dementia. And well, they are the bits that still make us tick, really, at the end of the day.
Deb, I can tell that, because oftentimes when people go through something that's very stressful, and obviously a medical diagnosis can be one of those things that's very stressful. What I found is that people go through these things, then kind of go one of two ways. One is they can be cynical or crazy, if you will. And the other is that you can come to a deep appreciation of life. And I think that's what we see here in you, and certainly through the books.
Well, I certainly hope so, from my perspective, not just a sort of personal one of being a writer, but of kind of taking a little bit longer to think about what's important. And I think that is the journey I've been on, and I'm continuing to go on with Peter. I think. Yeah.
It's dementia is a bit of a moving target, and it can be very difficult to hit the bullseye, even for the people living with it and for the people around us. We personally don't suffer with dementia. Well, I don't. I think the people around me do. And every now and again, you can just hit that bullseye, and you just got it right. And life is so good and so wonderful. And then maybe that afternoon or the next day, you just can't hit that target anymore, and life is not so good. But with people around us, we can still keep going, and we can still keep making life worth living.
I can see that moving target. It applies to anything in life. If it's just a goal or a dream, the Olympics, the Winter Olympics are coming up. All these people are having moving targets, and we get to see their life on TV. They always do a lot of bio background. And I just wanted to ask a question about the kind of bike that you sometimes ride. You know which one I'm talking about.
I do indeed, yes. As we call them in this country, the penny farthing.
Can I hold it up? Will it show?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll show it. There we are.
Does that show?
Big wheel at the front
Perfect.
and a little wheel at the back. I think I'm fairly certain that some of my friends in a club that we have called the League of Ordinary Riders. In America, I think you call them the high wheel bicycle, I believe. But it's something that when I started this journey of living well, I cycled across the country here in England to raise awareness. And the second year that I did a challenge, I wanted to, I suppose, raise the bar a bit, take dementia to a different height if you want. And I decided to ride a penny farthing. I think it was 5 counties of Great Britain, 360 odd miles, I think it was.
Not in one day.
No, not in one day. No, over a few days. I just wanted to, I suppose, show people that people with dementia could still achieve things and could still learn new skills, I suppose, even though it was riding a bicycle, but it was riding a bicycle way up here as opposed to a normal safety bicycle. I still ride one today. Not regularly, but I still ride one from our local village to the local town, which is, I suppose, about 4 kilometres and back, and just have fun on it. I've been known as the penny farthing man locally.
You've been known as many things locally.
I love this that you chose this to bring awareness, and I'm going to take a moment here. And again, remind everybody, we are talking with Deb and Peter. They are there in England and have written a couple of books, Slow Puncture, which is Living Well with Dementia, and Walk With Me, Musings Through the Dementia Fog. And also, you're a member of the ALDS Authors. I'm going to take a moment and play a little video because ALDS Authors is a nonprofit organization. And through the Amazon Smile program, if you sign up for that, and I'm telling everybody, sign up for it, sign up for Smile. And then when you make purchases, the nonprofit organization that you've chosen will get a donation as a percentage of from Amazon based on the purchases that you make. And so I'm going to show everybody a little video just on how to do that. You can support your favorite charities by using the Amazon Smile program. Go to smile.amazon.com, choose the button here on the upper left to select your favorite charity. Scroll down, put in the name of the charity, like ALZ Authors, and search. Once you've found the group, you can read about them. So here we have ALZ Authors, and it's a community of authors sharing Alzheimer's and dementia stories. Once you've found the charity, go ahead and click the Select button. And now your purchases will all go toward supporting your... Well, it's as if that little video froze up, but that's all right. We are all good. And let's talk a little bit about ALDS Authors and that group and how you got involved. And let's just hear your story there.
I had heard about ALDS Authors when I was trying to get the book published, and had brief conversations with Marianne about what do they do. And then once the book got published, one of the founders emailed me and said, would I like to submit the book for them to consider it for inclusion, which I did, and they included it on their bookshelves, which felt amazing because here we are in a tiny little place in Suffolk in England, and our voices are heard in America. And that just felt an amazing thing. And the work they do to not only to curate books, but to promote books and to promote information and podcasts and blogs for carers, caregivers. It's a fantastic organisation, and I'm really proud to be part of it. And I think they work incredibly hard because they've got about 300 authors that they kind of work with. So it really is a great organisation, and I wish we had more involvement in the UK. Having said that, they're probably going to ask me to do something. But it is a fantastic organisation to be part of.
It's great, really, over the last few years to see all these new wonderful platforms that are educating people about dementia. I felt when I was first diagnosed that dementia was where cancer was in the 70s. It was very unheard of, and you know, it's just one of those things that people didn't know how to respond to. As people like myself and many others are shouting about our journeys and educating others, it's great for all these various platforms to come up and assist us with that, and I don't know, spread the word worldwide. And over the last 7 years, I think, of my diagnosis, things have moved so far forward, and all part, you know, in part with like health authors and other wonderful platforms as well. It's great, very refreshing to know that things will continue to move forward when people like me can't move as forward as we would like in the future.
Oh, I was put to my blah. Okay, this is live and we don't get to edit out when I get tongue-tied. I have to say right now, I'm just feeling honored and privileged to talk with each of you, because what I see here is a dynamic friendship. I see athletes. I see people who have stretched forward in ways that neither of them did before this. So you have said you grow in an appreciation of, okay, this is here. And this is, you described it so well earlier, Deb. You said, yep, we're riding along. I get a slow puncture in my tire. I need Peter, you know? And so together, I guess I'm just so grateful to have heard all this. I wanted to say that Anne Campanella, who's one of the ALS authors, part of that group, she suggested that people can contact ALS authors and request a small library, in other words, a group of books, to be placed maybe in their doctor's office where people have time to look, and in schools. Recently, I met someone who started to be important in the life of her grandmother as a grade schooler. And if there had been a group of books, her friends would have understood better what this young lady was living with and how much she loved her grandmother, and how it's different for her than it was a year before, and, you know, during those years. And so I just wanted to extend that to our listeners, our audience, that you can contact ALS authors and request that they put together a group of books, maybe for your place of worship, or a gathering spot where people are in a waiting room. And it just helps people to go, oh, I get this now because Peter says such and such, and now I understand something that I couldn't have if he had not been forthright and just saying, hey, this is what happens.
It's funny because you mentioned about friendship earlier on, and it's a great friendship, but it's a strange friendship for me personally, because Debs knows so much about my life and me and my dementia, yet I know so very little about hers because I can't remember. I know that she came from Croydon way, and I know that she's been here for 3 years, but her history or her past and what she's been up to and what she does for me is lost in the, I suppose, I don't know, the tide of dementia. It's written in sand and washed away very, very quickly. And I can't grasp that and keep that. To give you a for instance, today, I didn't know I was coming here to do this. I knew I was coming to do something, but I didn't know what it was. So there's that element of trust, which is something, what people see is not really what's happening. There's this great element of trust between me and my wife and Debs. I mean, we both trust her and her family, with our lives, sort of thing. And that, I think, is something that is so very, very important.
I was going to ask, maybe I'll put Deb on the spot. With the new book, a book of poetry, and I have always found it best that if the author is able to read some of their own poetry, they can put their own emphasis, and we can actually hear your words. And I was going to ask, is there a passage that you would be able to read to us from the new book? Yeah, I would love to hear just a little bit and let people have a chance to hear these great words in the author's voice.
Okay, I mean, a very random.
Like I said, I know I'm putting you on the spot, so I appreciate it.
You really put me on the spot.
I don't actually recall writing any of these, and these are all. I mean, I sometimes have looked at them and I've thought, that's some good stuff. Who wrote that? Did I write that? Because I really don't recall it. So over to you.
Okay, well, this one picked at random and on the spot is called The Daily Game of Life. And it's really odd to read it with Peter sitting next to me too.
Yeah. Right.
Memories are like naughty children playing hide and seek in the dementia garden. Running and laughing, they hide in the shadows of my mind. Come and find us, they call. It's a game I sometimes win, but more often than not, I lose, but must still play. The days I win are clear and good. The days I lose are dull and foggy. The daily game of life. So that was something that Peter texted over when he was of an evening when he retired.
Wow.
So it's not, I wouldn't say there were poems in the traditional sense of the word because they've not been polished and refined and rewritten. They are raw. They're right from Peter's head to his phone, to my phone, and they've not been edited at all.
Yeah, and I don't actually recall any of them. Very often, if I don't know how long the walk with me has been out now, but I sometimes I look at it and I think, oh wow, I just forget these things happening. My short-term memory is quite poor now. But as the dementia progresses, I find new paths, new ways to carry on living well, and I want to show people that yes, the condition will progress, and yes, things will change for us as individuals and our families, but we can still just be ourselves. How far the dementia goes, it doesn't matter. We are still us, and that's such an important thing. Dementia being a very complicated disease, surrounded by simplicity, and if you dive into the simple part of dementia, then and not dive into the complicated mess and try and work it all out, life becomes easier, and the dementia becomes a little less dementia-y, if dementia is a word.
It is now. It is now. Oh, Deb, the way that you described Peter just earlier, just a few minutes ago, I thought her life is actually better. Who knows what your life would have been right now?
Yeah, it is.
But it feels better because you are doing exactly what people actually pay money for. And that is to have a life coach who says mindset, living in the moment, stop and just be and experience this. but you are also the keeper. You have a position as the keeper of memories, the keeper of those words. The written word, how important has that been in the whole history of human? You know, just to hold on to something so that other people can go, wow, that takes me into that moment with Peter. And now to realize that it takes Peter into that moment. I think he enjoyed hearing you read that about the naughty children hiding in the garden. I did.
Do you know, the way I look at it is, my words, my thoughts are written in sand and they don't last long. What Debs tends to do is she takes them and she actually writes them in stone so that they're solid and they're there for everybody to read and to learn from. And it's great to know that my memories and my thoughts have now become eternal, I suppose, really, because they are always there, written, out there for everybody to see, and that's great. I sometimes wish that my father had Alzheimer's, and but he was quite elderly, and I think he was 93 when he passed away a few years ago. But I often think that all the things that he did and the way that he lived with his Alzheimer's for well over 25 years, he had mastered the art of living well, but nobody recorded it. I wish that I had got the ability that Debs has got to, in order to record what he did, because him and many others in the past could have helped others just as we are now. That's how I feel.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Peter. I often say that this is absolutely the best time ever to be alive, because we have the capacity to be able to write. You don't need to find a publisher and an editor. You can choose to do that. And I encourage people like you, Peter and Deb, to actually take that time. And maybe it's a story of fiction that you've had in your brain for years. Maybe it's nonfiction, and maybe it's a family history that you can capture and pass down to generations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just incredible, and it seems to me, and I still can't quite. I don't suppose I can quite believe it to a degree, that when I was diagnosed, things were so dark and so horrible, and dementia was taking so much from us as a family, that somehow it swung a little bit the other way, and I feel as though I'm taking a bit back from dementia. It's sort of become a little bit of a tug of war, and sometimes it wins, but I feel as though the last year or so, I've probably been pulling the rope a little bit harder than it's been tugging me. So that's quite a great thing. So, is there hope after dementia? Yeah, I think there is. There can be a certain degree of hope and life and doing what you want and not worrying about the future and living in the here and now. And I think that's an art that all of us have forgotten through our lives. We all plan ahead. We all have things that we plan and we do. And I think we've forgotten that many, many years ago, as humans, we all lived now. We didn't worry about tomorrow or next month or whatever. We just lived now. And sometimes that's the way to do it. And I feel saddened that I've got dementia, but I feel so lucky that I've been able to do so much with it. I've probably achieved more in the last few years with my dementia than I had probably 20 years previous. How cool is that?
Wow.
And I would say I'm more fulfilled now than when I've worked all over the place. I even worked in New York. All my working life has not been fulfilling. I am fulfilled now. There's a tinge of sadness to it, obviously, because it's taken someone living with dementia to fulfill me. But I'm content. I enjoy my retirement. I'm busy. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy hanging out with Peter, cycling miles with Peter, and listening to him talk, because he has a lot to say.
It's important to say that when you're diagnosed with dementia, it's like the doctor has a pebble with D written on it and they're holding it just over the water. Soon as they give you that diagnosis, the pebble is dropped. It hits the water and it starts to ripple out. When it first hits the water, those ripples are quite, I suppose, small, short, but they're fast ripples. And that's where we get the depression, the problems, and all the badness. As it starts to ripple out, those ripples get less. They get more of little gentle waves. And I think that now I'm at that gentle wave area instead of the sharp ripples, which is what we had in the first place as a family. We have learned to walk with the condition and not fight against it. And I think that's a very important life skill, really, if I'm honest.
And I can see why Deb wanted to write poetry, Peter, because of the imagery that you give here with the pebble in the water, and you've explained it so clearly. And talking about your words being written in sand, and she's writing them in stone, and stone, of course, becomes sand over time.
Yeah.
Well, my husband loves to read poetry, and he did at his mom's funeral, and he has a way with words himself. And this is a live moment that I'm experiencing with you. And I think, Deb, that you even spoke to retirement, people that think retirement after the party. This defined me. And that pursuit, that constant pursuit, and the energy that comes with pursuing something. And here you are going, I'm content, I'm fulfilled. People are like, where do I go to get this? And you went to a friend, and you just entered into each other's lives in completely different ways, which is the way it is. We are completely different people, and we're going to enter each other's lives different ways. I'm talking with my hands. There goes the boom. Before we came,
I think my party had begun when I met Peter, really. Not to say I wasn't having a good life anyway, but the
Right.
value. I've got kids, I've got grandkids. That has value. I'm not talking about family value. I'm talking about additional value. It started when I met Peter. So it's a great party. And we're happy to invite lots of people around.
Absolutely.
well, you're making a personal contribution to the world, and you can make a personal contribution to your grandchild, and but now you're making a personal contribution to the entire earth and everyone who's dealing with anything. And so that is a different kind of fulfillment than we're at a point with a recent graduate from high school and a recently married daughter, and I've contributed there. And now I'm refocusing as we're becoming empty nesters, and it's different, and it goes deeper. It goes deeper than daily needs, etc. You've explained well that this isn't a caregiving relationship, although lots of the Alls authors' books are caregiving. It's advanced symptoms or whatever. And to me, I just feel like I just want to find out, Deb, have you ever climbed up on a penny farthing?
No.
I wouldn't either.
I'm not the most graceful of people. I do have quite a high accident tendency. I think that would be asking for trouble.
Can you show that?
I've held it.
You've held it. There, I could do that.
It's mammoth. It's so big. I don't know how he does it. I know how he does it because I've watched. but I would never do it myself.
Can
Well,
you
I think
can you hold up that book again, the slow puncture book with what a penny farthing is? Because I just realized that part of our audience is trying to figure out penny farthing, and then a part of our audience knows exactly what one of those is. And when Deb and I first met,
they were
yeah,
designed here, I think, in England in 1870, and the whole idea, because they were high, that wasn't really an issue in 1870 because everybody rode horses. So it was quite normal to be high. Nobody thought anything of it. We didn't have the technology for gearing, so the bigger the wheel, the further it would travel every time the wheel turned. And so that was the reason. And of course, like I say, people riding horses, it was quite normal to be up there. But with the roads was in such bad condition that they soon came up with this wonderful idea of the safety bicycle with two wheels at the same size. You know, so, Deb has a photograph here of you all. There we are.
You can see how, with Peter posing next to it, you can see how big that
Wow.
wheel is. It's mammoth. It's totally bonkers.
Well, I'm just
I love
gonna as we're winding down here, I just want to say,
Aw.
Peter and Deb, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm
Thank you.
going to put
Thank you
this
for having
back
us.
up so people can see. This is the newest book. It's Walk With Me, Musings Through the Dementia Fog. And they also first wrote Slow Punctures, Living Well with Dementia. And it's just been just a pleasure speaking with you. I have to ask one question because I have been captivated by the art in the back, Cazelle, and I am kind of a fan of the it's kind of funny because it's like we call it modern art, but it's like 100 years old. So can you say a moment about that?
I spent a short time living in Poland in another life, and that was an exhibition I went to in Warsaw. I never heard of Kaziel. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but I liked the picture. so it's
you.
there. And my husband does not like the picture, but it's staying there.
I just been captivated by it, so I had to ask. And so Slow Puncture and Walk With Me, Musings Through the Dementia Fog. As we wind down, I know this one just came out. I'm thinking there might be something else coming up. Do you have another book in the planning?
Do we have another book in the planning? I think we never really ever had a book in the planning in the first place. So you know what? It's very likely that number 3 could come along. One day when I'm not looking, Deb will present this book and say, "Hey, look what we did," and I'm going to say, "Wow, when did we do that? Or when did we do anything?" You know, so you never know. But you know what, guys? Watch this space. Follow our page because dementia is a colourful journey. It's a great portrait sometimes, and we'd like you all to be part of our little dementia gallery, I suppose, really, hoping that you will all learn more about the condition.
I love it.
Well, Peter, take good care of her because she said she's a little bit accident prone. So take good care of her. And I'm so glad that people can go into Amazon Smile, buy things for whatever reason, and can click All's Authors to receive a portion. And this is a nonprofit. These are a couple of people who came together and said, I wonder if there are other people writing what we're writing. And I'm so grateful. And it has blossomed to over 300 books that come from all different directions. And are written so many different ways, and some with humor. And we have been laughing out loud since we started this, even when we weren't on yet. And thank you so much, because that was something I needed to check off my list this week is, have I laughed out loud? Because it's so good. And you've taught us to just keep laughing and poke fun. I like that what you said, Peter, about poking fun with your wife, because it's something that's in your house but it isn't all that you. It isn't all that you are. It isn't all that there is. I have loved this. I will let my husband talk.
I just want to say thank you, Christine, for co-hosting with me today. Peter, just a joy to spend time with you today. And Deb, thank you. I just appreciate that you both have taken the time to share the story here. And I hope that we have a chance to do this again.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been absolutely wonderful. I might not remember it with my head, but I shall remember it in here, in my soul. So there you go, guys.
Beautiful.
It will be locked away in my little vault where dementia can't get at it. The dementia hasn't got the key for that, only I have. So that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love that.
All right, I'm going to send you guys to the green room. Hang out. We will be right back with you as we wind this one down.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, Christine, thank you for joining me today, and Peter and Deb. It was just a lot of fun.
This took a lot to get to this point. There were some barriers earlier on. You and I did a 2-hour interview with a whole bunch of authors, and we missed out on that time with Deb and Peter. So they got their whole hour on their own. But what we've all done is just brought up that he said, it isn't just light at the end of the tunnel. You can shorten the tunnel by bringing in the light of finding what's good in this, and he said dementia is colorful. And I was like, wow, who says things like that? Peter Barry does. And Deb Bunt writes it down. And we have recorded it today. So we've been a small part of that. It's been a joy.
All right.
Thanks, honey.
Well, we're going to wind it down. We'll just remind everybody that we have been talking with Deb Bunt and Peter Barry and their 2 books on Alzheimer's. Please click on those, add those to your cart. Start 2022 off right with a great book, and maybe you can be the hero and share Walk With Me musings through the dementia fog with a friend or a family member or somebody that would like some maybe different perspectives. And also, Slow Puncture, Living Well with Dementia is also a great book, and you can have those mailed directly to somebody that you know that would benefit from some very positive perspectives on dealing with dementia. And with that, I am going to sign off. Thank you all for joining us here on Amazon Live. Enjoy the day and take care. Cheers.